Let's continue digging into the traditional credit card trifectas. We've talked about setups that are simple, underrated, and ignored. Today, we're going to talk about a trifecta that really isn't any of those things. It might be the most famous trifecta in the credit card space, the Chase Trifecta. We're going to talk about which cards make up the trifecta, how those cards work together, why so many people like it, and its drawbacks. If that sounds good to you, subscribe and hit the like button. That will keep you up to date with everything going on at the Travel Points family. Hey everyone, my name is Ryan. Thanks for joining me here as part of the Travel Points family. We focus on how to use credit cards to subsidize family vacations. Taking our loved ones on vacations is expensive. Let's bring those costs down and take our families farther for less. Like I said, the Chase Trifecta is probably the most famous trifecta out there. That doesn't mean it's the best trifecta for you though. Hopefully, you're going to figure out whether it will work for you by the time this video is over. There are a few variations of the Chase Trifecta. The most common one uses the Freedom Unlimited, the Freedom Flex, and the Sapphire Preferred. The Freedom Unlimited is your catch-all card. When your purchases don't fall into an elevated category, you put it in your Freedom Unlimited. The Freedom Unlimited earns 3% back at restaurants and drugstores, and it earns 5% back on travel purchased through the Chase portal. But it is your catch-all card because it earns 1.5% back on everything else. Because of that, this is the card you're going to use the most in the trifecta. The Freedom Unlimited comes with an easy-to-meet sign-up bonus. While the sub changes a couple of times a year, it's almost always tied to an easy-to-hit $500 to spend in 3 months. The base offer is for $200 cash back. There have been offers that gave you $200 back and 5% back on gas and groceries, or $200 and 3% back on everything for a year. The current welcome offer is for $250 cash back, so it's slightly elevated right now, but it's still very easy to hit with only a $500 at minimum spend. One of the most important things to know about the Freedom Unlimited is that even though Chase talks about percent back and cash back, you really earn Chase Ultimate Reward Points, UR points. Chase lets you cash out your UR points for 1 cent per point, or lets you use them in the Chase Travel Portal for 1 cent per point, and that's how they set up their cashback model. When you earn $200 of cash back, you receive it as 20,000 UR points. And all this comes with a $0 annual fee. The next card in the trifecta is the Freedom Flex. The Freedom Flex is a little more complicated than the Freedom Unlimited, but it's really not that bad. Before I had it, I thought it would be really annoying, and I've had it for almost 2 years now, and it's not as bad as I feared. It's actually very manageable. It's less annoying than remembering to use monthly credits month after month after month. Like the Freedom Unlimited, the Freedom Flex will earn 3% back at restaurants and drugstores, but the Freedom Flex only earns 1% back on everything else. However, it has rotating bonus categories where you earn 5% back. The categories change every quarter and don't repeat year after year. Right now, for the fourth quarter of 2024, the categories are McDonald's, pet shops and vet services, select charities, and PayPal. The big one is PayPal because so many online stores use it. Other categories this year included grocery stores, restaurants, and gas stations. The bonus categories are capped each year at $1,500 of spending. That means you can earn $75 a quarter, adding up to $300 a year. And I actually just capped out my flex for this quarter, and we haven't really started shopping for gifts yet. If this is you too, your spouse could get another flex as part of your two-player strategy. Make sure you use your referral link. You can also product change an existing Freedom or Sapphire card to a Chase Freedom card, but now we're starting to wander off. Like the Freedom Unlimited, you'll receive your cash back on the Freedom Flex as UR points. The UR points have the same value as they do on the Freedom Unlimited, 1 cent per point. So the $75 you can earn each quarter show up as 7,500 UR points. The sign-up bonus for the Flex mirrors the one for the Freedom Unlimited, but the two aren't usually elevated at the same time. Right now, the Freedom Flex's sub is for $200 cash back after spending $500 in 3 months, and that will be given to you as 20,000 UR points. One other thing the Flex has in common with the Freedom Unlimited is an annual fee of $0. And that's going to bring us to the Sapphire Preferred. The Sapphire Preferred is probably the member of the trifecta that you will use the least. It also manages to be the card that adds the most value to the trifecta. Yeah, it sounds a little backwards, but we're going to clear it up. Let's start by looking at how it earns. The Sapphire Preferred earns 3x back on restaurants, online groceries, and streaming services, and it earns 2x back on travel. Purchases through the Chase Travel Portal will get you 5x back, and you get 1x back on everything else. With every card in the trifecta earning 3x back at restaurants, that doesn't add a lot of value to the Sapphire Preferred. Earning 3x back on streaming services is nice, but how much are you really spending on your streaming? Probably a little more than you care to admit, but it's nothing next to what you spend on gas or groceries or at restaurants. 3x back on online groceries isn't as good as it sounds. Every time I've used online groceries, I've paid extra for it. Delivery fees, markups. They eat up whatever extra earnings you're getting from buying online groceries. The travel category is broad in the Sapphire Preferred, but it's only 2x. And that's why you probably won't be using the Sapphire Preferred as often as the Freedom Unlimited or the Freedom Flex, at least for your purchases. The Sapphire Preferred will also have a larger welcome offer than either the Unlimited or the Flex. The standard offer is actually for 60,000 points after spending $3,000 in 3 months. And that's another difference with the Preferred. It officially earns points. It's not set up as a cashback card. You can still cash out at 1 cent per point, but the Preferred has some additional, more valuable ways to redeem those points. But back to the welcome offer. Like the other two cards, Chase will offer elevated offers throughout the year. Recently, the welcome offer was for 60,000 points plus a $300 credit through the Chase Travel portal. And this is the card in the trifecta that has an annual fee. The Sapphire Preferred's annual fee is $95. It does have a $50 hotel credit, but you have to book the hotel through the Chase Travel portal. Altogether, holding these 3 cards will cost you $95 with the opportunity for a $50 credit. It's a very reasonable cost for running an entire trifecta. Hitting all the sign-up bonuses would get you at least 100,000 UR points for spending $4,000, and that's a solid return on your spend. But if you look at the elevated categories, you'll notice a couple of glaring omissions: gas and groceries. Across all 3 cards, the elevated categories are 3x at restaurants, drugstores, streaming services, and online groceries, 2x on travel, and then 5x on quarterly rotating categories. Usually one of the rotating categories will cover groceries for a quarter or gas for another quarter. In 2023, one of the categories was wholesale clubs, but those are only for 3 months each. From an earnings perspective, the Chase Trifecta is not the strongest option. Even the catch-all card only comes in at 1.5%. If you use the Wells Fargo Trifecta, Citi Trifecta, or Capital One Duo and purchase the exact same items, you would end up with more points than you would from Chase. So why do people settle for earning less points? Don't you want as many points as possible? Well, of course you do, but all points are not created equal. If you have the Sapphire Preferred and redeem your UR points for the Chase Travel portal, you get a 25% boost. Those 100,000 points aren't worth $1,000 anymore. You can use them to purchase $1,250 worth of travel through the Chase Travel portal. Redeeming through the portal multiplies your points by 1.25. The 3x categories just became 3.75. The 2x travel earnings are 2.5x, and the catch-all 1.5x is actually 1.875. That's really not that much better. But the Sapphire Preferred also lets you use transfer partners, and Chase might have the best stable of transfer partners around. For hotels, you have 3 options: IHG, Marriott, and Hyatt. Each of those hotel groups offer a range of options from budget to full-service luxury. And while you can get good redemptions at each one, you'll probably get your best value from Hyatt. When we went to DC, we redeemed for 2.8 cents per point at the Thompson. On my recent trip to Charlotte, I got 3.2 cents per point at the Hyatt Centric. And I have an upcoming surprise trip planned where we're getting over 4 cents per point for a hotel stay. That is exceptional value. Now, when it comes to airlines, you can transfer Euro points to Aer Lingus, Air Canada, Air France, British Airways, Emirates, Iberia, JetBlue, Singapore, Southwest, United, and Virgin. They've got domestic and international options, and you can find respectable value on an economy ticket and outsized value in a business class ticket, especially international business class. A couple of other issuers have more transfer partners, but Chase's partners are consistently rated in the top 2 amongst all issuers. And this is why people will settle for earning fewer points than they could with another setup. Many people consider Chase UR points to be the most valuable point out there. The Points Guy puts a value of 2.05 cents per UR point, and that's because of the transfer partners. The bottom line is that Chase gives you the opportunity for better redemptions than its competitors, even while earning fewer points. The Chase Trifecta comes in a couple of different editions. The Unlimited, Flex, and Preferred is a standard edition, but there's an argument to be made for getting the Sapphire Reserve instead of the Sapphire Preferred, and this would be the Luxury edition. The Sapphire Reserve is Chase's top-tier credit card. With the Reserve, you'll now get airport lounge access, and that travel category is bumped up to 3x. The really great perk of the Reserve is that you can now redeem your points for 1.5x through the Chase Travel Portal, turning your 100,000 UR points into $1,500 worth of travel. Remember, they're worth $1,000 if you cashed them out, and $1,250 through the Travel Portal with the Preferred. Of course, you get all this for an increased cost. The Sapphire Reserve comes in at $550 a year with a $300 credit, and each authorized user are going to cost you an additional $75. But there is definitely increased value there. The other additions are for small business owners, or at least people who qualify for business credit cards. Sometimes the business owning part is optional. I'm only covering the personal editions today, but know that there are a few more variations out there. Before we wrap up, there is one last thing to talk about. Nicole's already thinking this video is too long, but you can't talk Chase and not bring up 524. Chase's 524 rule applies to all of Chase's credit cards, personal or business, Chase branded or co-branded. If you've opened 5 or more personal credit cards in the past 24 months, you will not be approved for a Chase card. No way around it. But if you're looking for ways to take your loved ones farther for less, you're in the right spot. Consider subscribing to the channel so you always know where to go when you have a credit card question. This is a small channel here, but with your support, we can help it grow. And go ahead and hit the like button too. You stuck around this long, so you must have liked something. I really hope you weren't hate watching, but if you were, thanks for watching anyway. The Chase Trifecta isn't perfect. It's missing out on gas and groceries. At 1.5%, the catch-all card earns less than its competitors, and it has arbitrary rules for approval. So you have to ask yourself, do you want more points that you can't redeem as well, or do you want fewer points that you can really maximize? There are a lot of people who will choose the more powerful points. This is why the Chase Trifecta is so popular. As always, thanks for watching. I appreciate each of you. Check out these videos next. And until next time, safe travels.